Welcome back to the Fulfilled Female Entrepreneur Podcast. It's your host, Cassandra Rosa. I'm a certified coach and healer, an intuitive business coach, and the mission behind this podcast is to help you to create a fulfilling life and business. Today, I'm excited to have Monica Burkoth here talking about releasing societal norms and choosing your authentic path. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm really excited to have a very special guest here today. Monica and I connected on Facebook in a Facebook group, and I actually recorded a collaboration with her. So we're going to leave the link in the show notes so you can check out her podcast. And it's just one of those interesting intersections that have happened that like you meet someone, you feel like you've known them forever, and you have that like divine intersection. So I'm really excited for her to share a little bit about her story today. And we're really going to be talking about being in that infancy stage of being in a career that isn't bringing you joy and helping you to kickstart that transitional shift of finding that clarity and carving out the path to be able to make that transition. So first and foremost, thank you so much for coming on. I'm really excited to chat with you. And now the tables have turned and learn more about your story today.
I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
Yes, so I'm really excited to introduce you to Monica Burkoth, she's a life coach, she's a boy mom, a podcaster, and a trial attorney. She's the youngest equity partner in her firm's history and has been recognized as the top 40 attorney under the age of 40 and is recognized year after year as a top attorney in her field. In 2019, Monica realized that she wanted more from life and wanted to serve women by helping them to find their inner confidence and authenticity and life's purpose. Now she coaches women all over the world who are feeling stuck and unfulfilled in their careers to help them identify their big goals and dreams while providing them with accountability, mentorship, support in their step to creating that dream life filled with purpose. She also has a podcast that we're going to link. And yeah, I'm going to link all the ways that you can connect with her in the show notes or in this video. I love where you're starting with your business. I love the mission that you have. I deeply resonate with that. I know when I started my business, that's pretty much word for word what I shared with women too. So I definitely feel the resonance here today. And I'm excited to hear more about this, how you're taking all your skills from being an attorney into a life coach. But as we start every episode here on Fulfilled Female Entrepreneurs, I love to know, what's the most fulfilling part of all the work that you do as a life coach?
I think the most fulfilling thing about the work is that aha moment where women like really recognize who they are and their power. And when they unblock and like take off some of those societal expectations and when they just really show up authentically, it's like this, you see, it's like they're reborn, and like watching it in front of your eyes is like hands down the most magical part.
I love that. Yeah, I really love how you're saying the light bulb moments in a way. Like that's what I love to share when I answer this question. But I really love how you're focusing on that authenticity and releasing the societal norms, because I think that that's the part that keeps people stuck in those careers that aren't bringing them joy, is that pressure of like, I call them the ABCs of success in life, with like, you go to school, you get that job, you get your house, your family, and then you can live your dreams when you retire. So I love that you touched on that. And in all the work that you do specifically with your business, what, like, comparing from where you were as like an attorney to where you are now with your business, what is the most profound shift that you found when it comes to fulfillment, comparing the two?
I think the biggest shift or the biggest kind of like aha that I've had is once I recognized that I was chasing a dream that wasn't mine. So like, being an attorney, I was raised by immigrant parents who really stressed, become a lawyer, become a doctor, get a stable career, get the 401k, retire, live that like stable, reliable life. And when I got to that point where, okay, now I'm past law school, I got into, a great job. I got promoted, then I got promoted again. Now I'm the youngest equity partner. I hit like essentially like what should be like what was my goal, right? Well, it was my goal when I was in my 20s. And I realized I didn't feel full. I felt like, what now? And it was just that realization of I've been chasing someone else's dream. I don't feel fulfilled because it was never mine to begin with. And so now with coaching, when I really kind of like peeled back the layers of what I want, who I am, like what are my values. And like God bless my parents who just wanted the absolute best for me. And I truly believe that I was meant to be a lawyer first because there are skills that I'm going to be able to use moving forward. And everything happens exactly how it's supposed to. But when I finally realized why I wasn't feeling like you have it all, like you have the best job, you have the freedom at work, you have the husband, the kids, the beautiful house, the vacations. Why doesn't it feel like enough? It's because it was never mine to begin with.
Mm. I resonate with that so deeply. I wrote, like, literally what you're saying is what I wrote in my book about my story.
Wow.
And I think that it's beautiful to see that, like there can be people in different careers, different stages, right? For me, it was the family business of insurance. You is becoming a lawyer, which is supposed to be one of the big careers that you create in life. It's beautiful to see that even when people walk different paths or have different walks of life, that in hitting specific levels of success, right? That when you look from the lens of immigrant parents or people, you hit the top. You checked every box off of that societal norms. It's so powerful to see that even through all of that, you still wanted more. And that's beautiful to see that you're taking the steps and that you're here now as a coach and taking all that knowledge that you've learned and stepping into your authentic truth in what it is that you're creating. So absolutely.
Totally. And something that I feel like many women might struggle with, or people that followed that traditional path might struggle with when they're craving that entrepreneurship, is like this guilty feeling. Like, well, I put in all this time, or I put in all this money, or I paid, for me, it was like over $100,000 in student loans. I put in all this effort. It was all for nothing, or my parents are going to be disappointed, or whatever's going to be disappointed, or people are going to judge me. It's like, you need to figure out who you're living your life for. At the end of the day, you're the one that wakes up in your body and goes through the motions. My parents don't go to court with me. They are not there. They're proud of me. And this is kind of what they were hoping for me, but that's only because they wanted me to be happy and they thought stability equaled happiness, And so, yeah, I think that's just something that I wanted to mention. Like, that guilt is normal, and you just kind of have to work through that guilt, to take it to the next level.
Yeah, I would love to hear more about your story, a little bit more about, expanding upon everything that you've kind of briefly touched on of going to school and studying to be a lawyer and being a lawyer, and what that pivotal moment and shift was of, hey, I have all this guilt and I want to release it and I want to step into creating this business in this path you are now. So can you share a little bit more about your story and that process?
Yeah. So in addition to hitting that major milestone, like professionally, and it's still not feeling like enough, I also became a mom that same year. And there's something to be said until you experience parenthood, like when you have a child and now you realize that you're responsible for developing their limiting beliefs, or, creating their core values. And and by not living like my truth, and by not following my dreams, I'm showing my kids that it's okay not to follow theirs. And instead, I want to show them that they should be bold and they should take risks, and they shouldn't take the safe job, or stick with things because it's safe. I want them to follow their heart. And I want to be an example of that, because you can say over and over one thing, but like kids will like mimic what they see, right? Like my parents, this is like kind of a bad example. I almost feel bad saying it, but like, you know, my dad drank a lot growing up, and he will always tell us in high school, don't drink, don't drink, don't drink. And, of course, we're like, my sister and I wanted to try drinking because we saw it around the house all the time, and so same with cigarettes, smoking. So it's like stuff like that. It's like, you can say it, but until you be it, they will mimic your actions. And so that was a huge influencer for me too, is just being a role model for my children. And also just this whole concept of maternity leave and being home from work, where my entire identity was wrapped up in being a lawyer. To and from work, I was a lawyer. Whenever I introduced myself, I was excited for my opportunity to say I'm a lawyer, because I thought that was like cool and like added value. But beyond that, I feel like I didn't have a sense of self.
Mm.
And just that time away from work, from that role, from that total identity, and being like alone with this kid in the middle of the night, like, who am I? Like, what am I going to do these next 3 months, that if I'm not working, like if I'm not talking to my coworkers, like what are my interests? What are my hobbies? And that's kind of what kind of really got the juices flowing.
Wow, that sounds like a big awakening.
Totally.
Once you're
Yes.
releasing what society would label you, right? There's so many labels when it comes to your career, your age, whether, what gender you associate with, if you're a mom, if you're not a mom, like those are the main things, even when you're going to the doctors, that you're checking those boxes. And I really love how you took that moment to have that introspection, that you started to realize that there was more than that, and tapping into that authenticity and that shift. And I think that I am not yet a mom yet, but I'm sure that that is something that shifts your whole perspective on life, because you're seeing life through their eyes too, which is
Mm.
so powerful. So continuing on what you were talking about, of you're starting to realize, okay, there's more to your identity than being a lawyer now that you're stepping into this mom role. What was it that was like that pivotal shift that you were like, okay, there is something more? What made you want to step into coaching and actually take the action, not just daydream about it, but like take the action towards stepping into this entrepreneurial role in your life?
So it started with the podcast, and I was a huge avid listener of podcasts. Like for the last decade, I would listen to them to and from work, but it was always like a murder mystery or something that like wasn't, it was entertaining, but it wasn't necessarily good for me, I wouldn't say. But so I loved podcasts, but I also loved all things self-help, personal development, manifestation. I couldn't get enough of all that stuff. And so I thought, what if I could talk about that stuff like in a podcast maybe? And it's so taboo for someone like me who's in this super stiff professional career to talk about spirituality or to talk about manifestation. It's like super woo woo and weird, and it was like coming out of the closet as this kind of like weirdo in this super traditional uptight profession. Like, what are my colleagues going to think? What are my coworkers going to think? But I got to a point where I was like, I don't freaking care. Honestly, I don't care, because it's what I want to talk about and it's what I want to do. So I just did it. And then from there, I started interviewing a lot of, because the focus of the podcast was just talk about kind of like, I mean, literally it was exactly a similar mission. It's almost like women that kind of feel stuck or unfulfilled, but aren't sure why. And it was just kind of start streamlining and like talking, watering down some of those spiritual concepts so that like normal working gals like me would not be so turned off by it. And so they could start adopting things like gratitude and visualization and things like that were changing my life, or that I could see were changing my life. And so I started interviewing these like incredible people, and almost all of them had transitioned out of a corporate job into coaching.
Wow.
And they were, and they were living these lives of freedom and like just abundance, and just felt so fulfilled, and had, they could schedule anything whenever they wanted, and were able to pick their kids up from school. And I was like, oh my God, I want that. I want that. And I want to be able to reach more people than I was with just the podcast, because the podcasting, like, it's so nice for me to have an outlet, but like you don't get as much feedback, as you would like, and you don't get to see the transformation. Like I would get people messaging me on Instagram or writing reviews on the show about like, that it's helpful, but it's like when you don't get that, like that in the moment, that you see those light bulb moments, that is like the super special part. And so I took I got a coach myself, and I did like a business mentorship, and decided to start my own coaching practice. And it's been like the best thing ever.
Amazing. No, I absolutely love that. I love how you just went for it, and that you use this podcast that you have created as a beautiful vehicle to be able to uncover that for yourself. And, that the light bulb moments is that driving factor that allowed you to step into coaching. So if someone's listening in and they're resonating with you, they're like, yeah, I'm in a corporate job, I'm a mom, I want more, I want to tap into my authenticity. If you could give like one piece of advice for the listeners that are resonating with you, what would that be?
Figure out maybe where can you create space to add something to your life, because you might not be in a position where you could just quit your job. I know I'm not right now, and I wasn't when I started the podcast and started the coaching. I'm still doing both. I'm still an attorney, right? So where can you find the space and make the time to prioritize those future aspirations, because just thinking about it is not the same as actually doing it. And so you have to, even if it's 5 minutes, before you clock in for work or during your commute, where can you find time and start making intentional use of your time to start working toward the
Mhm.
goal or dream? Because there's never enough time. It never feels like there's enough time. You're not going to magically get time back. So like audit your day, figure out where you can fit it in and start taking action.
I love that. I think that that's a beautiful piece of advice because, like you, I think that it's important in that transitional phase to do both, right? I did both. Um, when I had my first business, it was for a few years, but since I've gone to this capacity, it was 6 months. And it does take a lot of creativity to find those moments. And I can only imagine with two young kids that you have to get super creative. So this more than enough time, like I don't have enough time in the day. How would you recommend that people overcome that mental block? Because I found that was the biggest part of it, was overcoming the mental block of, I don't have time for this. I don't have time to take a business. It takes too much time. How would you recommend that people overcome that are
I
listening?
think the number one way is to write, like everything sounds bigger or feels like a bigger problem in your head than when it's down on paper. So I'm like so into journaling, so into writing out things. So I would write down, literally audit your week. Like maybe even start with one day at a time. What time did you wake up? And then, what did you do as went on your day? If you spend half an hour in traffic, okay, that's half an hour that you could spend listening to a podcast or a course or something that can move you in the direction you want to go. Is it, do you watch, Real Housewives when you get home from work for 2 hours and, or eat dinner in front of the TV or scroll through social media in bed for the last half hour or all those different things? Those add up, right? And so I don't think that most of us are even conscious that we're doing it. We just feel like, oh my God, the day is gone. And it's like, no, you have to be really intentional. And I think if you really have a why and you really want to get out of that corporate job, if you really want to make a move, you will find the time. And if you are totally not doing any of those things, you're not scrolling through social media, you're not watching TV when you get home, you don't have a commute, you're literally jam-packed, then wake up earlier. I mean, there's no other way to do it. I when I was at the very infancy stage of starting the coaching business, I was up every morning at 4:45 because my kids were up at 6, so I can have at least an hour and a half to work on like the website or whatever it is I was working on before they woke up. And yeah, it's tough, but like when it's something that you're really excited about, it's energizing and it should feel good. Like I was excited to wake up because even though people are like, how do you do it? You've got literally 2 small kids, you work full time, but it's like it adds energy and joy to my life, which I think to me symbolizes I'm on the right path, and I think you'll feel that and you're going to want to make the time if you're really serious about making a change.
Yes. No, I love that. And I think it's that awareness is always the first step to making change in your life. So acknowledging those moments that you're filling your day with things that you can clear up, even if it's, you're catching up, you're making your housewives, if that's something you're into, as your celebration after you complete your tasks for the
Hmm.
week. Versus, watching it live before you have things done, and making those subtle shifts is so huge. And having that why that drives you is so key. So most people are caught up in the societal norms, right? And those can often be the biggest blocks to making that shift and creating that space for clarity. So how did you release the societal norms and the pressures that came with having an immigrant family, and those ABCs of success of, hey, lawyer means success? How did you overcome that? And how did you create that space for the clarity to step into the next chapter? I'd love for you to touch on that a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I've totally cleared all of it. It's something that I think you have to recognize is going to take a while to kind of work through because it's been all I've known for 35 years, right? And so what I started doing was I really incorporated a morning practice where I really focus on myself. Like I think coming back home in terms of like, what is in my heart? What do I want? Like not what my parents wanted for me, not what society expects of me, but like I really do think that we're all here for like a reason. And I think that if you really kind of drop into just yourself and like spending that quiet time with yourself to figure out what that thing is, it'll come like in whispers, it'll come in different ways and signs. I really do think that the number one way to kind of overcome those, what everyone else is thinking about me, is to get more, fall more in love with you, like spend more time with you, because then it won't matter what everyone else thinks. If you have so much of your self-worth is tied into other people's perceptions of you, then it's going to hold you back from living like the life that your soul came to live. So I think just really taking yourself on dates, waking up early to journal, having like a beautiful gratitude practice. I think all of that helped me. I've also been listening. I don't know if it's helping. I do think it's helping. This is pretty recent, but I've been listening to subliminals like that I find on YouTube. I just have to make, you have to make sure that you read all of them, that the affirmations are like legit, but different subliminals about, self-worth and confidence and things like that. I think in addition to the work that I'm doing consciously, like by journaling and affirmations and gratitude, I think I'm trying to just kind of work in the subconscious as much as I can. Because, I don't think it can hurt when it runs 99% of your life. So I'm also doing that as well.
I love all those tips. I think that's really key, right? To be able to shift from everyone else's perspectives and society's perspectives into your authenticity, your truth, what it is that you desire, and creating that spaciousness that you can do all those practices that you share, I think is a beautiful place to start. And do you want to talk a little bit about the podcast, what the mission of it is, what they can expect by tuning in and listening?
Yeah, so thank you. The podcast is Confidence Counsel. Obviously, the play on counsel, as I'm still an attorney, and I wanted to focus on just confidence generally because, well, it's not necessarily focused on confidence, but I used confidence in the title because I think that kind of embodies like all of it. Like I think when you're true and authentic to yourself and you're really living your truth, there's a level of confidence there. And I wanted to focus the podcast on interviewing women that I thought were living like confident, authentic lives, whether that be facing their fear. Like there's an episode where it's a girl I actually went to college with. She was um, always the funniest girl in the room, but never thought she could make anything of it. And so it's her story of actually moving to LA and like trying to become a stand-up comedian and like overcoming that fear of judgment and the ABC traditional lifestyle to then follow their dreams. So it's a lot of stories about following dreams and aspirations beyond what's expected of you. I also have like a mix of kind of spiritual guests. So I have manifestation experts, human design experts, different people that will help kind of shape a sense of knowing. So like with the human design, like it's different ways to think about your gifts and the things that, are your strengths to help you figure out your path and purpose. So they're all kind of guided in that direction. And then there's some solo episodes with me when I get like an inspired download or something to share, then I'll share those as well. But I think you can always expect like a pep talk, a little bit of inspiration and motivation to kind of chase your dreams.
I love that. Very powerful. And I'm so lucky to have been a guest as well. So, like I said in the beginning, we'll leave a link to the episode in the show notes as well. And you are a coach. So, if they're listening, they're resonating to your story, they're like, yes, I want help with everything that it is that you've shared so far. Where's the best way for them to connect with you if they want to learn more about you and your coaching?
So the best place to reach me is probably on Instagram at confidence.counsel. And you can also get more information about one-on-one coaching with me on my website, which is www.confidencecounsel.com.
I love that. We're going to leave all the links in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been so insightful and so liberating. And I deeply resonate with you. And I feel like I've been in your shoes. So I feel like this has connected us even more. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been so fun.
Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you'll be notified every time I'll upload a new video on Thursday. See you in the next one. Bye.